There's no turning back now. Face ass! But yes, we are talking about a book that is a corny title, right? So some books we deal with, they got corny titles. But the actual material of the book itself is pretty fire. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty fire for all things considered. And I did actually talk about it on a recent collaboration video with my homie, Goosebumps Completionist. I'm gonna link that down in the description below. But I wanted to give it a full review in this video. So we are talking about none other than Goosebumps Horrorland, Hall of Horrors. Horrors, not horrors, despite how I say it. But Hall of Horrors would be pretty lit. Hall of Horrors, The Birthday Party of No Return. That's the book we're talking about today. Now, is this book as widely recognized as it should be? No, not quite at all, because this is a highly divisive book. A lot of people either seem to like this book or really like it or don't like it and actually pretty much dislike it heavily. And that's why I kind of wanted to talk about it, because I'm on the spectrum that actually likes this book and I actually enjoy it quite a bit. And I think that the writing in this book is pretty great. It has overall great pacing. It has some good character development and dynamics between the characters. And it's within that group of books to me that you kind of see in kids' horror a lot. Not just Goosebumps, but in a bunch of different pieces of kids' horror media, where they feel more like Disney original films. There's quite a bit of books like that, quite a bit of episodes like that, quite a bit of movies like that, where they don't really feel as scary as kids' horror normally is. You know, you have the formulaic stuff, you have the really dark material out there, like, let's say for Goosebumps, Welcome to Dead House, Werewolf Skin, you know, Are You Terrified Yet? Can get pretty dark as well. Cry of the Cat. You got really dark books like that. You have books which are pretty much formulaic, you know, stuff we know, Haunted Mask, Slappy, that kind of stuff. And then you have these one-off books which feel much more like Disney original, where they're not as scary, but it kind of feels like you're watching a film. It's like it's got good pacing, good writing, good dynamics between the characters. It's just overall better written than a lot of other kids' horror books you'll read. And that's one of these ones. The Birthday Party of No Return is by no means the scariest Goosebumps book, but it's an enjoyable tale, and I think there is a good moral to take away from it, and I actually quite enjoyed it. This one got an 8.8 out of 10, as I mentioned in that collaboration, and again, sticking to here. So let's talk about this book. Goosebumps Hall of Horrors is a pretty solid series, I think voted as one of the best ones, because it's only 6 books, yet they are all pretty much consistently good for the most part, and this one basically touches upon these two main characters, who is Lee and Corey. Now, Lee and Corey have been best friends since they were young, very, very young, lifelong friends, pretty much were always in athletic competitions together, they were at each other's birthday parties, they had fun together, they enjoyed each other's company. However, they have that best friend rivalry. They have that rivalry going on, where they're always trying to outcompete each other and basically win over each other. And you can see that as they play sports, you know, playing sports like tennis or other things, they're always very competitive in athletics. And that carries on even to when they become older. And you can see that Lee is often the one that is in the shadow of Corey. Corey is often the athlete who's victorious. He's often more lucky. He's often getting ahead of Lee all the time. And Lee becomes very jealous. He becomes sick of it after a certain point, because he feels like the spotlight needs to be on him. And it's his time where he should be shining and coming through and winning stuff and, you know, kind of being the popular one as opposed to Corey. Corey's kind of like to him that one older brother that, you know, has achieved all this stuff. He's the well-liked child, the one everyone looks up to, and you have to live in the shadow of. It can be annoying in that sense. So what happens is that there's this competition going on in the school over sports, which is going to lead to these basically coaches and scouts that are going to be scouting out for potential people to attend this summer camp. Now, this summer camp is basically this athletic summer camp, very prestigious, very exciting, has a lot of fun stuff involved with it, and it seems like a really fun opportunity that people can brag about. So right away, Corey and Lee and their friend Laura, who's also, you know, this athletic girl, basically want to participate in it. They want to be scouted out, they want to be chosen, and they want to go to this camp. However, it's very limited spots, and they're specifically looking for one candidate from the school to be the victor. So in their school, only one person will be able to go. So right away, Lee, Corey, and Laura kind of had this competition going on where they want to be the one chosen. And, at first they were thinking, oh yeah, all of us will be able to go, all of us will be able to make it, but it's only one. So now you kind of have to fight your way to get in. And Lee thinks that this is such a fun opportunity. It's such a cool bragging point for him that if he gets the one up on Corey and gets chosen, he could finally be the one in the spotlight and he cannot miss this chance. So what happens is he's basically going to be competing. Corey's competing, Laura's competing, and in this competition, basically they're going to be fighting to become the next candidate to be chosen for the camp. And what ends up happening is that Lee actually gets a package sent to his house one day. And this package happens to have a vulture claw. That's right, the bird claw, bird talons, vulture claw, basically in there. And it's said to be a good luck charm in a similar way to like a rabbit's foot, for example. And Lee basically opens up the package and sees this vulture claw, all shrunken and gross and disgusting. And he kind of throws it off. He thinks it might be some kind of practical joke. There's no way this thing could actually be a good luck charm. And he basically attributes it to maybe Corey's playing a prank on me, or somebody else is playing it. Corey might just think this is a funny joke, sending it to me. I can't take this seriously. So what ends up happening is that as they get into this competition where they're basically fighting for the camp, it basically comes down to Lee and Corey as usual, the two main rivals, the two main stars of the school, and things start getting down to the wire. And Lee is basically not in the lead. He thinks that he might be close to losing, and if he loses out in this competition, he's going to be kicked out and never get the chance, to be scouted. So he kind of wants a way to get his redemption and get back in the spotlight. So he decides to put on this vulture claw. And as he does, his luck may or may not turn around for the better. And he starts to notice these things happening within his life, within that competition against Corey that never happened before. And now it's making him a little bit more of a believer, making him think that there may be some actual powers and charm behind this vulture's foot. And then as the story continues to progress, something happens and that luck may take a complete 180, where now bad things start happening to Lee and his life is being put into danger. The good things that came to him are now being taken away and now put into jeopardy, and he's extremely worried. And now he has to decide what he's going to do, because if this decides to keep up, he's going to lose out regardless, and this was his one-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So you start to find out some of the character drama between some of the main characters. You find out what this vulture's foot is truly capable of, the rules behind it, some decisions that were made which lead to poor results. And basically the story turns out for one crazy climax. The climax to this story is quite wacky and quite crazy to imagine. And then you get this revelation, and there is a moral hidden within there. So yeah, this story overall had really good pacing. It had really good writing. I loved reading it all the way through pretty much. I loved the dynamic between Corey and Lee. I liked their characters having that sort of athletic rivalry between each other despite being best friends. I liked the fact that they still kind of look out for each other even amongst their competitive nature. I like the way that the pacing is. There's no really slow point in this book. It's pretty much to the point, guides you along the way, and keeps you interested throughout as to what potentially might happen to these characters. What is the dynamics behind this good luck charm, and why are things turning in a different manner? And then when you get to that revelation, during the climax of how the thing works, and then an additional climax as to who may be responsible behind this whole catastrophe, it keeps you interested throughout. So I thought this was a pretty good read. And I have to say that Corey and Laura and all the main characters are pretty much good. They're all pretty much enjoyable. I like them. I especially like Corey. Corey, like that real kind of like Chad Thundercock kind of character. Just cool, swaggy, charismatic, a nice guy. And he's always winning in a lot of stuff. And my only real problem with this book stems from Lee. Because Lee as a main character, he's not that enjoyable. I'm going to keep it real. All right, I get the point of his character. It's not that I don't understand why he's the way he is. It helps out the plot and the story and the dynamics. But he's just not enjoyable to see, kind of just throughout this book. Because at first he starts off normal. But then as the story progresses, you start realizing that he's kind of very jealous. And he kind of projects his own insecurities onto Corey and other people. And he attributes Corey's basically achievements, to him being lucky and being given to more, opportunities and stuff. And until you find out certain things, you're intended to believe that that's not the case. Corey's just more talented than him. And from that standpoint, you would think that he's kind of a jealous kid. Like, this is his best friend. Corey always looks out for him. They've always hung out with each other. So why is he kind of trying to pit himself against Corey and kind of dig this hole despite having such a great friendship? And on top of that, there's a scene where Lee is basically losing and he kind of freaks out, has a temper tantrum moment, and he throws a tennis racket and it basically clocks a teacher in the side of their face and knocks them over. Nearly could have taken out their eye. And he afterward is not apologetic. He's basically still in a rage, and he's basically kind of saying, "Oh, it's not fair. Corey shouldn't be winning. This, and that." He's just purely focused, tunnel vision. I'm saying, a horse style, right on that jealousy aspect of Corey. Even though he specifically hurts somebody because he's insecure and he's angry, which just sort of takes you back. You're like, wow, this guy is kind of being a bitch. He's kind of whining. Like, it's like, dude, why would I even support this kid? This kid is willing to hurt other people just because he's angry, and he has no real justification for it. It's just because he's jealous and he's raging like a little kid, which kind of goes against sportsmanship. That's not how, sportsmanship is supposed to go. Yeah, people get angry, but you can't let it get ahead of you and then cause, basically harm on other people. That's not how things are supposed to go. And Lee doesn't understand that. He just keeps on focusing on his own selfish intentions, which sort of takes away from the book. However, aside from Lee, I think that overall every other aspect of the story is good. It's not as scary of a kid's horror book as many other ones, which is why I say it's like a Disney original. A lot of the material in this book could easily pass for a Disney original film, and in that turn is not that scary, not that horrific compared to other material. So if you're looking for a darker book, this is not necessarily that. However, it does have good psychological horror in terms of taking that psychological tension and rivalry between these two main characters and then integrating that within the superstition and the luck aspect of this object. The whole idea of this dreamlike sequence that kind of happens in the climax, which is like them hallucinating something. And it's very terrifying. So that sort of mind relation, that sort of mental relationship between the two plays into that mental horror later on. And I think it works pretty well. And on top of that, you have the tension, the idea of, bad luck, and that tension, that paranoia as to what can happen to the characters. And, anything can happen at any time. You don't know how horrible it could be, how severe it could be, who it could target. That obviously plays an aspect into a lot of superstitious horror. But yeah, overall, I think it's a great book. I think you should go check it out. Again, this gets a high B out of me, 8.8, which means this is a really good story. And if you want to just go in there and experience something that's a good tale, treat this like you're watching a Disney original film and just watch it and enjoy it for what it is. You might have a good time, and just imagine it like such. Imagine it like you're watching a movie. And that's how I felt. I felt as though I was watching like a little, original film. And that's why I found so much enjoyment out of it. There's another book that inspired this one, actually, which was How I Learned to Fly, which is similarly divisive. It's got not that much horror, but it's got this great story and great characters and great dynamic. And that basically inspired this book, seemingly. So if you enjoyed that, you're going to be a fan of this. And if you didn't enjoy that, you might want to look towards something else. But that's how I feel. What do I know? But I just wanted to share my opinion. So that's one of my hidden gems of Goosebumps, The Birthday Party of No Return. I suggest you all check it out. You'll have a fun time. And it has good morals in there. The idea of not being jealous, not being too selfish, and don't break friendships and relationships with your loved ones just because of your own self-interest. You're going to get the spotlight eventually, and you should be happy for other people, because once you do, you're going to realize the things that actually matter, and you'll probably find more opportunities later on. So that's all I have for this review. Hope you guys enjoyed. And if you enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button down below and hit that like button. Again, I'm going to link the collaboration between me and Goosebumps Completionist on the Hidden Gems video for Goosebumps we did, since this book was on my list in there. And yeah, that's all I have for today. Stay tuned for more content to come. I'm keep trying to upload constantly because I'm on winter break. And I'm going to keep uploading after that, but it might slow down. So just trying to harp on that. Right now, I got a couple books that I'm reading. I did read recently a Goosebumps book, finished a Fear Street book, and I'm reading an adult horror anthology book right now that is fantastic. So I can't wait to talk about that. But yeah, stay tuned for more content to come. Hope you guys enjoyed, and deuces and take care. See you. Now, again, I brought those morals up to talk about your relationship with your loved ones. However, if there is a rival out there that you do need to get some revenge against, I completely warrant you to do so, because I feel that way with Ezekiel. This man keeps on ripping me off every moment he can. He took my girl. He took my GYG collection. He ripped me off with my recent trying to get a purchase of a werewolf skin first edition. And all I got in turn was shivers. Your mom was a werewolf. I nearly took a tennis racket myself and beat him over the head with it. So that's to say that if there is a person out there that's ripping you off like I'm getting ripped off, if any of you have lucky vulture claws, send it my way. I'm just saying, just don't kiss it beforehand. No context behind that. Just read this book first and then you'll know.